Welcome, my friends, to the Happiness Breakthrough, where resilience, mindset, and excellence converge. Join us, Dr. Mark and Becky Leonard, high school sweethearts turned entrepreneurs, as we share powerful stories and practical tips to elevate your life.
From overcoming life's toughest trials to mastering mindset and relationships, every episode is a journey towards your happiest, most fulfilled self. Tune in and transform your life with real, actionable wisdom.
Hey, my friends, it is so good to chat and be with you today. We get a tremendous amount of questions as franchise owners about what is that lifestyle like, about how do we get into this? Would we do it again? Is it worth it? What are the troubles and trials? And we've got a lot of friends that are like, I really want to open up a franchise. Well, we thought maybe we should answer some of their questions, and we've been able to gather some. We thought we'd share with you the questions that they are asking us.
It's so true. I literally just yesterday, we were here at our office where we do our recording, and we had this gentleman that we were introduced ourselves to, and we're talking, and he asked what we're doing, and so we're telling him all the things, and then he's all, oh, you're a franchise owner? I was thinking about doing that. I was thinking about diversifying, and I'd like to know more about it. And so here we are.
I love his question and his idea of diversifying his portfolio. That's certainly one strategy. But we thought we would take some time and go over the most popular questions that you have asked us about owning a franchise and having a family and owning other businesses. How do we do it all? So, all right, Becky, what questions do we have?
So actually, before we got started on the questions, which these little note cards are questions that we have today that we're going to answer for you if we can get to it all. I don't know, maybe we'll have part 1 and part 2. We'll see. Something interesting that I was thinking about was the type of people that come to us with these questions, because it kind of fits into like a few different little buckets that I thought you might find fascinating. One would be people that just don't want to work for anybody else. So the entrepreneur, right? Yeah. They want to work for themselves. And so they're thinking, oh, maybe a franchise or owning my own business would be a route that I would like to take. So that would be bucket number 1, which we have related to and fit into that bucket from time to time.
We have owned a franchise, and we have owned our own brick and mortar businesses and starting from scratch. So we know the differences, the pluses and the minuses. What's another bucket?
That's true. Okay. Bucket number 2 is somebody who's already made it in the corporate world, in whatever realm that they're working in, and they want to diversify. So they're looking for an investment. They're looking for something that they can purchase and then kind of let it run itself, and they just earn money off of that investment.
Right.
Right.
And great strategy. We've looked at that model as well. These are a third bucket.
I was thinking there was a third bucket, and now I'm like...
I would say the third bucket is someone that they are non-entrepreneurial. They have not necessarily become super successful in the career, although they're stable, but they're looking for something different, and they see the product that are available in a franchise environment, and they think, oh, I could do that because I use that product all the time. And that's another great bucket as well. And not one of these is better than the other. They each come with their pluses and minuses, because they each have experience. So I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about is the experiences, and also answer some of the questions about how did we decide and what were some of our learnings.
Which leads us to question number 1, which is exactly what Mark just said.
Oh.
How did you choose the franchise that you opened? Such a good question. So let's start with a little bit of backstory. During our greatest trial of our faith, somebody came to us and were interested in opening a franchise. And they asked if it was something that we had ever been interested in. And there were other things that we were working on. And we're like, I don't know if now would be the right time. And that conversation went away. And then a few weeks later, this individual came back to us and they said, well, actually, if you're interested, I'd like to be your business partner. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess now would be the time. When this kind of opportunity presents itself, you know, you do some praying and thought and pondering, but ultimately we felt like that would be something that we would like to explore. And that's exactly where we started, was exploration.
And the exploration was really interesting because if I remember correctly, that investor, when they came in, the reason why they had reached out to us that second time was not just because we had an experience of success in building up businesses, not just because we had experience in the corporate world. We had both of those things going for us, but they were watching a business news channel and a report was done on franchises, and specifically it was Dutch Bros.
Yes.
Which is a drive-through coffee shop. And he said, hey, would you like to open that up with me? So we started looking at that. We started looking at other things that we were passionate about. But that's actually, I think, one of the driving factors for us was, would we derive joy from whatever it was that we were going to look at? Looked at, I don't know if I want to give specific names of franchisees.
No, but we looked at soda. We looked at cookies. We seemed to go for food.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's because we're foodies.
I know that most people like to get their hair cut. So I was looking at opening up a franchise or multiple of places where people can get their hair cut. I really like the idea of it being something that we could be involved in and would derive joy. Now, I knew there were certain things I did not want. And that was very, very clear to me. My very first job was working in fast food. And the amount of grief was something I did not want to deal with.
Yeah. Yes, grief. We were looking for something that was a little bit easier to run. And like Mark said, something that fit our personality, something that resonated with us, a franchise that had similar values to us, that had things that we felt like we could get behind, right?
Oh, if we were going to align ourselves with a brand, I wanted to make sure that if someone saw me in town, they wouldn't have a negative connotation about us personally because of the franchise that we bought.
Right. Or, for example, the person came to us wanting to open a franchise and considered the Dutch Bros. Well, that doesn't align with Mark and I because we don't drink coffee. So us owning a franchise that we can't back ourselves, like, oh yeah, this is a great product. Well, we wouldn't know. So it had to be something that really did match how we felt and what our interests were. And so we looked at all of these different franchises and we just went into a gathering data phase. We just literally reached out to a bunch of companies, looked at what they offered, looked at kind of a high-level financial profile, because you can't really know what the company's like until you meet with them and you sign non-disclosure agreements, and then they give you what's called an FDD, or a franchise disclosure document. And that at that point, then you understand how much money you could make, what the other costs are involved, all of that really deep dive financial stuff. So the information that we looked at the beginning was literally just high level. What would it take to open this type of establishment? Does it meet our criteria for what interests us?
And I was also looking at the amount of capital that we needed to put into it compared to the earning potential. And that took a lot of research. And one thing that Becky just said is we went at everything as we are just gathering data. See, if we went into it emotionally, where you get excited because you happen to love a product or you love a culture, that's great. But if you get to the point that it tips you over and you're making decisions based on that, you could be making a poor decision. It's not balanced. So we wanted not just the culture, the product, their values, but we also wanted the right data points financially. So we had to spend a lot of time reminding ourselves, we're just gathering data. We're just gathering data. And funny thing happened, this also was during the COVID years.
It was. We were smack dab in the middle of COVID. This was 2020. This was towards the end of 2020. So there were a lot of places that were still on complete lockdown. And so we had to take that into consideration. How would that affect our business? By the time we opened, would it be opened again? Would like the nation be opened again? Or would we still be in a lockdown? And so that was an important thing to think about. And with that, the franchise that we chose actually had already opened a location in our area. So there was some watching how they were doing during COVID, because they literally opened, what?
I want to say
May or June in the middle of COVID. And so how were they doing, and how were they getting the word out, and how were they selling product when they had opened during a lockdown? So that was something that we had to really watch and take into consideration.
The other thing that we were really looking at was from the franchisor perspective. What support were they going to give, especially in this new world, in this new way of doing business? Did they have a team that could truly support us? And did they align to our business and personal values?
Right.
One of the things I really loved about this particular one is that they had a broker that understood our area. And now this franchise, the company had been around since 1996, so they had a long track record, but they were all company stores. They were all based out of Florida, and we live in Arizona. So now we're starting to get into regionally, do the products make sense? Is this something that people will gravitate towards? And some of the other research I did was, what other dessert shops are similar to us that we would be able to utilize some of their customer base to win over? By the way, Cold Stone, their home office, is 30 minutes away from here. So that I looked and said, well, Arizona makes sense, right? Ice cream, frozen dessert makes sense to be someplace where that is a known entity. The challenge became no one knew our brand, because the only one outside of the state of Florida was in Arizona, and they opened up during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Made it a great challenge for us.
That's true. So we could go on all day, you guys. So we're going to try and...
All right. Yes.
We're going to try and move on. So why did you choose a franchise instead of just opening your own concept? This is such a good question, because Mark and I have experience with both. So our first store, that brick and mortar store that we opened, was our own concept. It was based on other companies that we had seen. We opened a jewelry making shop. It was a bead shop. Do you guys remember back in the fad
of the beads?
It was a huge fad, and I loved making jewelry, and the area that we lived in did not have a bead store. And so we decided to do our own thing. It took so much research. It took so much time. The barrier to entry for getting it off the ground, even though there were other bead shops around, people aren't going to tell you how to open a bead store. They're not going to tell you how to open your own concept. If you wanted to open an ice cream shop, or if you wanted to open a burger joint, or whatever the thing is that you would think about opening your own concept of, the research is heavy. We actually have friends that just opened an ice cream shop in LA, well, in the Southern California region. And they said it took them 2 years to get their own concept open. That is the reality of your own concept. So either you've already put the time into it and you're ready to take that next step and then it won't take as long, or you've got a lot of research and time to do and just expect that it's going to be a long time. So we did that route. It did take a long time, a lot of research, a lot of trial and error. So when we decided to do it this time, a franchise made sense because they've done the work for you.
There's also purchasing power because they have recipes. They know where to get the product. We didn't have to do all that research. And I remember when we were opening up the bead store, and it was really hard to go find the quality Bali silver and the quality crystal.
Yeah.
Right? What was the brand of those crystals?
Swarovski.
Yeah, Swarovski. And how do you buy those on a good price? And because we had opened up our own concept at that time, yes, we could get it. Yes, we could go to bead shows and to trade shows, but it didn't mean that we were going to get the best financial deal when we were buying it. And remember, whenever you're buying and selling, you want to increase or sell whatever it is for more than you bought it for. It's just good business. I tend to like that as a model.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I remember when we got our very first Swarovski crystal order, and we were so excited. We had spent $6,000 on all these crystals, and UPS pulls up and it's like, these are going to be amazing. Do you remember that, Dolly?
Yes. Oh, we were so excited. We're expecting, like, I don't know, you guys, we just didn't think through it. We are expecting him to walk up with a $6,000 box, right? Like some significant box. And he walks up with this little tiny box. And we're like, this is $6,000. Are you joking me right now?
I still remember what I said. I still remember as we opened them up, and inside my stomach has dropped. I'm thinking, what have I done to our family? I just wasted $6,000. And I'm opening up this box. And I wish we could have had it on video, like the ultimate unboxing, right? And I looked and I said, at least they're pretty. And that was all I had.
At least they're pretty.
At least they're pretty.
At least they're shiny.
So there are positives and negatives. Opening up your own concept. We looked at opening up our own drink concept based off of another version, but we did a lot of research about that. And where in the country could we open it up that would make the most sense? We liked, for us at this station of our life, we liked the idea of someone saying, oh, you want to open up this franchise? Great. Here are the recipes. Here's the equipment. Here's where you're going to get them. Oh, you need cups? Great. We already have them printed. Order it from here. And it just made it very simplistic. There's also a very interesting phase of business because now that this franchise arm of the company that we're with is, the more stores they open up, the better the pricing. Cups are coming down. Spoons are coming down. Napkins are coming down. And it's a game of pennies. People look at us and they go, you must be phenomenally wealthy.
No,
we are phenomenally good at collecting pennies.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
So that was some advice that we were given really early on in this process of choosing a franchise, is that for the most part, franchises like this, you don't really make good money until you own 5 or 6. And that didn't really make sense in my head at the time. Makes a lot more sense now. When you open a business, all of your financial obligations really go into the first store. It just does. Like your insurance and any cars that you're going to need and any, like all of the tax benefits of opening a store, right? And running a store, you put on that first store. So that first store doesn't really make as much money because it's got this financial obligation on it. But then when you open store 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of a sudden you don't have, like, it's all running, all that financials on the first and not on 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so then you just have a bigger draw, a bigger financial benefit to the other stores. Franchises in general, something to just remember and keep in the back of your head is, unless you're like a Burger King or a big establishment, and unless you're selling a product that's a higher price ticket item with a low cost of goods, you're just not, like, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands and you're going to make a small amount. It's not going to equate. It's not like a 1-to-1 ratio. Like, oh, look, I made 200,000 and I kept 100,000. It just doesn't work that way.
No, there are other fees associated with it. There are franchise fees. I've heard anything from 6% to 12% based on different franchise models. That was something we had to consider, was what was that franchise fee and how did they calculate that? Great question that I learned is that companies will calculate the royalty differently. One will do it off of the very top of line sales. Luckily for us, they do it top of line minus discounts. That gives us, and it's, I guess you could call it net sales. And that's where they then calculate off. Now, that means we are not being penalized if we are discounting, if we are giving product away. We have a very simple model for how we determine how much that percentage should be. And it's one that's been around, honestly, for a couple thousand years. It's found in the Old Testament, and it's called the tithe. And we look at our books every month and we ask, did we discount, donate, give away? Did we do something that equates to about a tithe or 10% of our very top of line sales? That's how we determine what it is. And we try not to get too far away from that. 2 reasons. One, we found, very interesting principle here, we found that if you over discount, then you become known as a discount brand. Well, that was something we didn't want to get into, was a discount brand. I remember clothing shops that we used to go to when we were younger. We will not share their names here.
Yes, I don't want to be like
we're not
sued for defamation or something.
But they got into a habit of discount. And then I started asking friends, hey, if you go, would you go and pay full price? And they said, never. I will never. So in other words, the value of their product was diminished so much because everyone was accustomed to the discounting.
Right.
So you have to be careful. You also don't want to discount too little. Or when I say discount, this is giving away, donating. This could be food banks, schools, churches, businesses, marketing materials that you use to give away the product for free, whatever that is. If you give away too little, interesting thing happens. People are not inclined to come in. So there's a sweet spot. And again, ironically, we found for us, it's 10%.
There you go. So we will talk probably more about that in another podcast. We're going to talk about networking and marketing and how that works for us. Just things that we think you guys would be interested in as entrepreneurs, business owners. Okay, question. The next question. What is better, a new franchise or a franchise that's been around a longer amount of time?
Ooh, such a good question.
Right.
Such a good question. How would you answer that?
I personally feel like it's going to be up to you and what you want your business to look like. There's pros and cons to both. The benefit to it is that if you have a newer franchise, then the excitement can really give you a good return, right? That as you build this brand and people hear about you, they're going to be excited to try your product. You might have a greater return on your initial investment anyway. But the thing is, there are a lot of hiccups that you also have to deal with. Anytime you have a newer concept, you have to deal with getting your name out into the community, which is a lot of hard work, which we'll talk about on another episode. But you also have to deal with supply chain issues. They don't have all that worked out, or they've done it on a local level, but they haven't done it on a national level. So then you have to be patient as they work through that process. Or as they grow and they start building to bigger numbers, then they have to change who they're doing their supply chain stuff with, and that could create potential problems. There's just a lot of struggles that you need to be okay with in order to have that greater potential for growth. However, if you would go with an established franchise, the benefits would be...
It's really interesting. If you go with an established one, you may not have what I find to be probably one of the most exciting aspects of any business. And it's called Blue Ocean, a fabulous book that I've utilized when I was teaching at the university about blue ocean marketing and blue ocean leadership. And this idea that you have nothing but blue ocean in front of you. It is all open, but it also means you don't know the choppiness and the waves and the things that are going to be coming. The great thing about an established franchise or an established business is that you begin to become acclimated to the choppiness, to the ups and downs, and you can see them further ahead. Let me give a quick example. Something that impacts so many people is supply chain that Becky talked about. And there's something very simple with us. We do not have many different products, and they're all served in cups. We only have a couple of different sizes. But what happens when one of our cups doesn't make it onto the supply chain, isn't actually getting to the end of the row? How do you adjust and change with that? The larger the business and the longer they've been around, the easier it is for them to look out 6, 7, 8 months ahead and say, okay, this is what's going to happen because we've been here and we know what to expect. I think about I'll throw out some great examples. At Chick-fil-A, they have created a fabulous model, and it doesn't matter if you open one up in Okotoks, Canada, or if you open it up in Okeechobee, Florida, or somewhere in between, the model is the same, the products are the same, and they already know, and they've ordered everything that you are going to need 2 years from now.
Yeah.
With a smaller or a less experienced franchise model, they don't have enough buying power in the market to be able to look that far ahead and make those purchases. So there's kind of a sweet spot. But for me, I love the blue ocean. I love the choppiness. I love the challenge because it also comes with this fun of no one's heard of you. How can you make a difference in your community? And I love that. And we're going to talk about that again.
Potential for growth.
Yes.
So it's a trade-off. You need to decide which one you're more comfortable with. People like, if you're like Mark, and sometimes me, I would say that he likes that challenge maybe a little bit more than I do. We both enjoy it, but I think that he gets a charge out of that challenge. If you are like that, then going with a less known brand, less known franchise will be a good fit for you. If you don't like that uncertainty, if you don't like feeling like you're always dealing with another fire,
then go with an established
business
model.
And by fire, I mean, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's rough, but there's constant challenges that come up with a less established franchise that you need to be aware of as you're making a decision.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Ask another great question.
What would you say is the biggest challenge of owning a franchise?
Oh, pick me.
Mark.
Oh, thank you so much.
I see your hand raised.
Yes.
Yes.
I have some thoughts on this one. The biggest challenge to owning a franchise was the misaligned reality. I thought walking into a franchise, that we all watched that great Kevin Costner, A Field of Dreams, right? You build it and they will come. And I was like, this is going to be great. We're going to open this up. Everybody loves it. People are never mad eating desserts. This is biologically proven.
It's true. It's true.
We can get into science of that. We're not going to today. But I love that idea of people are going to love this. They're just going to eat this up, haha, pun intended. And I love the idea of, I'm going to open it and you know what, baby? We're going to go on vacation and we're going to live that dream life that we always were expecting to have. And then we opened our doors. And I was not prepared for and we started tracking it, the literal 100-hour work weeks for the first several months.
Truth.
I was not prepared for that.
We knew going into this that we had chosen to be the managers as well as the owners so that we could set our business up for better success, being able to keep more of that money in the store instead of paying more out to a manager to help us with savings, to help us with really just looking ahead financially. We knew we were going to be the managers. Oh my goodness. Talk about complete and total utter exhaustion.
But you know who loved us? You know who loved us for that? Our physical therapist. We were in so much pain for a while, physical pain.
Oh, yeah.
That it was really a brutal period of time until our bodies adjusted. And we were used to hard work. We've opened up our own businesses before.
Yeah.
We've worked the corporate world before. We've done the crazy. We've raised 6 kids, etc. Right? We've done really difficult things. But this was a whole new level of expectation. There was also, because we chose to be the manager and the brand recognition where we lived was statistically 0.
Yes.
So our job was, one, as a manager, as an owner-operator, we wanted to understand every potential pitfall so that when we got ready to hire a manager, we would be able to have a playbook to make and help that manager be more successful. The second thing is we knew we had to spend time marketing and networking. In fact, our next podcast is going to be on how to network more effectively. It doesn't matter if you're a franchisee. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, an owner, an employee. It doesn't matter if you're just trying to get friends. We're going to give you some tools on how to network more effectively. And it's very different than what you see people do. And it is one of my greatest joys is networking and doing it effectively.
And strengths.
It is. It's definitely one of my strengths.
It's become one of his greatest strengths. But it came through a lot of
failure.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Learning.
Yes, I've never failed. I've only learned. So I loved, and I was not expecting the 100-hour weeks. Now, here we are several years later, and we own a couple locations. Are we still putting in 100-hour weeks for that?
No. Depending on the week. I wouldn't say we've done 100 hours a week consistently since that first, 8 months. However, the thing that I would say was the greatest challenge, that was the question, right? The greatest challenge for me is the constant challenges that arise. And it seems like there's always something. And so you have to be prepared for that because you're working with people, A. B, you're usually working with people that either are young or depending on the franchise, may not have a lot of experience. They're just there earning some money, right? There's a lot of hiccups that come up with employees. There's hiccups that come out with corporate employees too, different hiccups, but there's employee hiccups. There's equipment hiccups. There's supply chain hiccup. It is sometimes daily. And so for me, the greatest challenge is working through those challenges,
and having balance.
Yes, because sometimes you feel like you know, we've mentioned on other podcasts when your dream becomes your nightmare. Sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes when you've had weeks on end of another challenge daily or multiple challenges every day, it becomes exhausting. So figuring out how to have that balance, figuring out how to put the right processes in place to have those challenges addressed, and especially where we are managers, that's a reality that I didn't expect and was probably the hardest thing for me, is learning how to balance all of that and feel sane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that learning to balance, which is also why in our coaching, we talk about how do you become more productive? How do you not get drained? How do you protect your energy? How do you protect your mental health? How do you strengthen your relationships? Because you're going to be lambasted at all times. You're going to have things hitting you constantly. And this is why we coach on these very things, because we not just have lived it, we continue to live it and know what it takes to become successful. And by the way, that was one of our goals walking out and starting a franchise, is we never started a franchise to lose. We are very, very competitive. And for us, it was, what do we have to do to be number one in our region and in the nation? And we have sat at number one in the nation multiple times, beating out stores that have drive-throughs and have a larger presence in the market. But we've maintained that top 10% since the day we have opened. And we've done it without letting us get out of balance. And that's a hard thing to do. And it takes a lot of intentional work. Okay, last question. What's our very last question?
Well, I was going to say, not only does that take intention and not getting out of balance, but it also is something where you have to be intentional at not losing sight of your values, your ethics and values. And that takes intention. You can be number one and not be cutthroat.
Oh, that's so funny, because I remember when I was a real estate agent, and that was a thing that they kept teaching. They were literally teaching how cutthroat the industry was in real estate, and how if I was going to be number one, I had to be cutthroat. And I was not willing to compromise, for me, my values. So I had to find the right balance, and this is where we found it on that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can lift everybody else and still be number one.
Absolutely.
Okay, last question. Would you do it again?
Ooh, that's a good question.
100%. 100%.
No, you shook your head no when you said 100%. Is there a question?
That was like
that was a like.
That wasn't meant to be a shake.
That was like an 80s rock.
100%.
Okay, good. I want to make sure. I totally agree with you. It is 100%. I would do it again. I have zero regrets. Have we had difficulties? Yes. We have a dessert shop. So did the ice cream hit the fan?
Yes.
Absolutely. And you have to learn how to adjust with that. But here's the great thing. Did the crystals hit the fan when we had the bead store?
Yes.
Did the real estate business, was that a difficult, and did the transactions hit the fan?
Yes. Did the newspapers hit the fan?
Oh,
yes.
Every business we've owned, or even in every corporate world that we've been in, something has happened. And so it's not about if something will hit the fan. It's how will you adjust, change, learn, grow, and improve from that point.
There's something to be said for being able to look back and say, look who I am because of all of this. Look who we are. We can sit here on a podcast talking to you about this with so much confidence in what we're sharing with you because we have experienced it all. And it's been hard. And it's been like a proving ground. It's been a testing ground. However, we have grown so much. And our appreciation for other people and their knowledge has grown tremendously too. I find that sometimes people who get into this franchise world feel like because they have so much corporate experience or so much business experience that even though they've chosen a franchise in order to have a cookie cutter, just get in and start doing it, they then want to reinvent the wheel, and they're not really open to listening to what the franchise has to say. And I feel like after going through this experience, I know how much we don't know, or at least didn't know, right? And we're still learning. There's still so much we're learning, but there's so much value in not being the smartest person in the room. There's so much value in going into the situation and going, how can I become better through this new adventure?
Absolutely. And if you find yourself wondering, should I open a franchise, or I own one? Maybe you're asking yourself, I own a business. How is it the same or different? Or I have some of these same challenges that Mark and Becky have had. That is why we have our coaching program, because we've been there. We've done that. We've experienced it. We know how to dig out of those holes and get yourself back to performing at that higher level that you have for yourself. So I love that our coaching really focuses on becoming a better version of you. Because if you're not a better you, what's going to happen with your employees? What's going to happen with your coworkers? If you're not improving, do you like being around people that are constantly negative or have complaints or having issues or problems and name blaming, right? Or finger pointing? No one wants to be around them. So we coach people through those experiences so that they can continue to rise up and be more successful. What we have found is it is intricately related that a business suffers if the owner is suffering. A relationship suffers if a business is suffering. So we want to help give you the tools that will help get you out of that hole. So make sure if you are ready for some coaching, definitely reach out to us. We would love to share with you our different coaching programs that we have. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We have one-on-one. We have small group. We have large group. We have workshops. We have lots of things that we can implement and help you with because we want to see you make those improvements. We've been there, and we're grateful for every step of the journey that we've had, the ups, the downs, and I'll tell you all the in-between. It's been a fabulous, fabulous trip.
Yeah.
If this was of value to you, please share this with your friends. If you have someone that is considering getting into the franchise world or opening up their own business, share this episode. And then our next episode is on how to network more effectively. There's a lot of great things that you could be doing that maybe you could improve upon. And we want to give you some tools that will help you with that. And we are just so grateful to spend this time with you, our friends. Thank you so much. We'll talk with you soon.